Protection of wiring. Conductor protection. All current carrying wiring needs some form of protection from mechanical damage. Also, the occupants of the home need protection from potential shocks where wires are spliced together. Exposed wiring. Obviously, there should be no exposed wiring in the finished or livable areas of the home, but this means that some unfinished areas may have exposed non-metallic Romex-type cables. In this section, we will look at those areas and discuss what is and is not acceptable. The guidelines in this section are based on current adopted NEC codes and may not be applicable in your area or may not apply to an older property. Remember, code is based on previous failures that have produced unsafe conditions. Exterior wiring. The home inspector should report any exposed wiring at the exterior, especially interior type wiring such as Romex types, which are not rated for exposure to ultraviolet light such as sunlight. Also, any exterior conductors should be protected against mechanical damage to a height of 8 feet. Crawlspace and basement wiring. In most jurisdictions, exposed wiring is allowed in basement and crawl spaces. In the northern U.S., we commonly see Romex conductors unprotected as they leave the panel, and the circuits generally run unprotected on the ceiling joists. Crawl spaces are the same unless a prohibitive condition exists, such as a very damp area. Then exposed cable assemblies are the norm. According to the 2008 NEC, crawl spaces and unfinished basements that have NM cable installed shall be drilled through the joists unless installed on a running board. Cables with 3 8-gauge or 2 6-gauge and larger shall be allowed on the surface of the joists. Attic wiring. Although exposed conductors are allowed to run in attics, there are some safety concerns that the home inspector needs to be aware of, especially as the homeowner is going to enter the attic space to store seasonal goods. All conductors should be protected within 6 feet of the attic across opening. This means that no cables should be run on top of the joists in this area. This dimension also includes the underside of the roof framing rafters. If they run perpendicular to the joist, they should either be drilled through the timbers and have a running board over the top or be stapled to the side of a running board. Wiring in cabinetry. The home inspector may observe unprotected wiring in under-sink locations, especially when supplying waste disposals. If any hard-wired appliances have exposed conductors, they should be protected and installed in a manner that is out of the way of homeowners using the cabinet space for storage. Protection of wiring through studs. In frame construction, all of the home's conductors must be run through the wall stud work to supply the outlets. These hidden conductors need to be protected from accidental damage. Most frame homes are built with either timber or steel studs, and each have a separate protection requirement, timber studs. Any cable assemblies closer than 1 1/4 inches from the front face of the stud need to be protected from damage from drywall screws and the homeowner hanging pictures, etc. This is achieved by installing a nailing plate on the stud. Note that the 1 1/4 inches applies to both sides of the stud if the required distance is not maintained. Steel studs. Where NM cable or electrical non-metallic tubing is run through openings in steel studs, protection against penetration is required. A steel sleeve, steel plate, or steel clip not less than 1/16 of an inch in thickness shall be used to protect the cable or tubing. An opening in the stud requires a plastic brushing to protect the cable from chafing against the steel's raw edge. This protection must encircle the entire opening and not just the bottom half. Support of cables and conduits. All cables, cable assemblies, and conduits need regular support from the structure. The home inspector will often see great lengths of Romex and other conductor types strung unsupported through crawl spaces and attics. This, again, is indicative of homeowner work and needs correcting. The basic specifications for support are NM Romex cables stapled within 12 inches of metal enclosures and 8 inches from plastic gang boxes, and every 4 feet and 6 inches of run length. AC cables stapled within 12 inches of metal enclosures and every 4 feet and 6 inches of run length. MC cable has a run length that is extended to 6 feet between the required supports. Metal conduit, or EMT, clamped within 36 inches of enclosures and every 10 feet of run length. Protection of personnel. Exposed wiring, and especially exposed splices and connections, are obviously a danger to the home's inhabitants. All connections in conductors need to be made in approved enclosures, typically panel boards, junction or J boxes, and gang boxes. A gang box is what is behind switches and receptacles. The home inspector should report any splices or other connections that can be seen either outside of enclosures or in enclosures where the cover plate is missing. All enclosures and J boxes also should have proper cable connectors where the conductors enter the box. Plastic gang boxes do not require these since strain relief is built in.